Hey guys, this is Kevin Ken with Precision Powerlifting Systems. I'm joined, as always, by Jay Birdie. We got all kinds of technology going here. We got a tripod. We got a mic. That's it. That's all we got. So today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. I kind of want to talk, a lot of the stuff that I've discussed on the videos so far have been like a lot of like general information. I kind of want to discuss like practical application of some of this general information. One of the things when I started this, and even like with the direction I want to go with the podcast, one of the things that I really want to focus on is using real world scenarios, real world training scenarios, to kind of discuss and let everybody know my thought process with them, how they turned out, you know, good or bad with some of these things. Because I think there's a lot of value in that. And I don't think a lot of people actually do those things. It's just always like this overgeneralized information. So I'm actually going to start, and I'll probably ramble on and talk about somebody else at some point. But I'm going to start with using like my experiences with the bench press recently. So I competed in January, mid-January?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was like January 9th, yeah.
So like mid-January. And so we're going to even back up a few weeks before that. So this was my first equipped meet, and I took to the bench shirt pretty quickly. I was able to touch. I was able to get some good success on it. I was able to work up to a single at 380 with room in the tank. It was pretty sure I probably could not have doubled it, but there was definitely 10 to 15 more pounds there. So I made a huge error in my thought process leading into the meet. So I was like, oh, I got this touch. I just got to maintain my strength and everything will be fine going into it. So for the last 3 or 4 weeks, can't remember exactly what it was, but I'd have to go back and actually like look. I used boards. So I used a lot of like 1 and 2 boards with the bench shirt, and I didn't do any touches after that 380. My whole idea was, you know, and you get stuck in these like dogmatic beliefs about what like people tell you in the past. And like this still happens to me now, even though I'm aware of it. I was saving it for the meet. Come meet day, in the warm-up room, I've never missed 315 in a shirt, never once. It's a weight that I can lift raw. It's nothing crazy. But in the warm-up room, I missed 315. And part of it, I probably just misgrooved it a little bit. I had them, you know, pull my collar down, and it probably wasn't enough weight at that time to touch. So there probably were some technique things that did play into that. But I got back under it a minute or two later, took it, and it felt heavy. Like way heavier than it has ever felt in the past. So I turned to the people that were handling me, and I'm like, fuck, I got to go do this on the platform now with like 20 more pounds. So I opened around 345.
Did you get it?
Oh, yeah. I ended up going 3 for 3 on bench, but the first one, it was like a true 10. Like it looked like, I mean, it came off my chest, and it was hard all the way through the range of motion. And I could tell Soph, who was handling me, the look on her face, she almost like didn't know what to do. And I was like, just add 5 kilos. And so, I think I opened around 340. We added the 5 kilos, and it was around, you know, the 352 or whatever that kilo conversion is. Same thing. And it was just as hard as the first one, but I was able to adjust, stay tight, squeeze the bar. Like I just focused on doing what I needed to do. I was able to execute it. I was like just 2.5, so we chipped it, went out there, and I hit that 358 as my third. And it was really hard. Like I don't understand how like all 3 of them look just as hard as each other. And it just felt so heavy in my hands. I had a hard time controlling it on the way down. Issues that I didn't really have in the shirt. And I do chalk a lot of that up to not practicing touches leading up to a meet. I think that was a bad idea and something that I'll rectify moving forward. But that 360 was literally 358, 22 pounds less than my best touch in the gym. And with that touch in the gym, there was more to spare. So I was about 30 pounds off from where I was before. And that doesn't just happen overnight. But, you know, whatever. So I was in the shirt a lot leading up to the competition, so I decided I should probably take the shirt off and just focus more on my raw benching. So this is, you know, the following week after, I'm starting to touch heavier weights again, using different grips and stuff. I did the first wave I did with the football bar. It's a bar that I've never used before. I think my max on that was only like 285, so it was definitely way under what my best raw max would be. But I also assumed, different angle, not being in the shirt. There were just a lot of things that were playing into that. But it was a nice like change of pace for those reasons. Save my pecs, work on the triceps, do those types of things. So then I brought the straight bar back into my training, and the weights just felt heavy. And same thing, I kind of told myself that it's going to feel heavy off of the bat because I haven't done much raw benching in a while. First time touching a straight bar in a few weeks, like since my competition. So I did some like close grip, medium grip, used some bands, stuff like that, but just everything felt heavy. And I was nowhere near what my previous bests were. But I had had conversations with like Hartman and Oliveira and a few of them who had said that a lot of times after an equipped meet, they would notice that their raw numbers would go down. So I just kind of chalked it up to, hey, that's kind of probably how it's going to go, because to get better in the shirt, I had to be in the shirt. So you sacrifice those raw numbers a little bit. But at the same time, it's one of those things that like it should start turning around pretty quick. But it just didn't. This like dragged on. So I did a few weeks with the straight bar, different grips, using bands, stuff like that. And even like straight weight, I'm barely like getting into the low 300s with it. And these are weights that usually I can smoke. And it just felt really heavy. I had a hard time controlling it. It just seemed like to be the same issues that happened week one were still happening now. So I decided I probably need to touch some heavier weights. I'm going to just get back in the shirt. And I think part of me wanted to get back in the shirt. And this is where we have to be aware of our own subconscious sometimes. Because I was like, oh man, I was doing so well in the shirt. I should just put it back on and see how it goes. So I wore it for a couple weeks and I ended up grinding out 350 in the gym. So 10 pounds less than I had competed at and way under what my previous best was. And that was the last time I had benched, and then quarantine had happened. So my bench had been going pretty poorly for about, starting with my competition, right? So from January, this is up through March. So February, March. So it's been 2 months at this point, and it's not going very well at all. So then quarantine happens, and I'm very limited with the amount of equipment that I can use. So I was in Mike and Lindsay's basement, and we had very limited weights. So I was just doing some like rep work, but trying to like get that RPE up there. And I did take a single a few times, and even then, like my singles were under 300 pounds. Like I haven't benched that little. My first meet ever, I benched 275. So we were in a weird spot where like my training just for, now we're going on into 3 months, my bench is just going backwards. And like, this is what I tell the group all the time. It's, you don't get weaker from training. It's just, these fluctuations are going to happen, and we tend to like focus and we can chalk it up. Oh, this is a bad day. This is a bad day. But every lifter is going to go through an experience where 1, 2, or all 3 of their lifts are just not really progressing, and sometimes they're going to slide backwards. But what we want is we want that long-term progress. We want to be able to see that long-term progress. So sometimes it's okay to just stay the course and kind of see how things are playing out, because training, if you're coming inconsistently and you're working hard, it's never going to be wasted. It's just displaying that newfound strength that you have sometimes just takes time, and sometimes takes a nudge from a different direction. So actually, I kind of want to touch on this too. So Kramer, who is an exercise physiology professor at UConn, had said this before, that basically he thinks that strength just kind of builds like a storm in the background, and you don't get this like incremental progress. Right? So it's like, we may see incremental progress on the platform, but a lot of that may be just our perceptions and beliefs about how the training system goes. They're like, hey, if I can get, train for 4 months and hit a 5-pound PR, that's great. And in a lot of cases, you're just executing something you didn't execute before, and you were capable of displaying that strength, but there was something holding you back. And that could have been mental, technical, whatever. So he says that it happens in bursts. So sometimes like, it just builds in the background, builds in the background, builds in the background. Then all of a sudden you hit that first 5-pound PR, and then things start to get nudged in the right direction. So we moved the operation from a basement to a garage, and we have more plates and stuff. So I decided to start adding in more like real max effort stuff. And my first wave there, it went terrible. I just wasn't lifting much weight at all. So I threw in some rep work the following week just to kind of like regroup at like 80%. And even then, like 255 for doubles felt really hard, and this should not be hard. So what I I sat down and I was thinking about it for a while, and I'm like, all these lighter weights are just feeling heavy, and I need to find a way to make these lighter weights not feel so heavy anymore. And I need to kind of get some momentum and build some confidence. And just in my head, I was like, I need to touch heavier weights. So typically I do very well from a 2 board. And I had been training with a middle finger on the rings grip. So I always bring my grip in just a little bit from where I would be in the shirt, just to get a little bit more triceps.